Center field has been a position up for grabs on this Phillies team this year, and Johan Rojas is doing his best to rain down and make sure he is the guy. We're going to talk about if he's done enough to separate himself from Brandon Marsh, as well as where Austin Hayes comes into play in this full outfield rotation, and why I'm fully bought in on Johan Rojas being the winner that this Phillies team needs. Now, before we dive fully into it, do want to make sure you guys are smashing that subscribe button here. That at this point in time, 86.9% of you guys have not subscribed to the Phillies Digest channel just yet. We want to grow the family as big as possible. Just about 30 games until the playoffs kick off, so we want each and every one of you a part of it. Make sure you're smashing that button to help us out. And Luke, let's talk some Johan Rojas. So what's kind of been your impressions throughout the season? We know the book on this guy, that he's probably never going to be a guy competing for batting titles or smashing a bunch of home runs, and his glove is really his ticket here, but he sneakily has been hitting really well lately. Talk me through it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his OPS, it's probably if he was a qualified hitter, it's probably the worst OPS in baseball. But then you look at his average, and he's hitting 246. He has 28 RBIs. He has 21 stolen bases. He's hitting 300 since the All-Star break. He's hitting 261 against right-handed pitching this year. The dude's just kind of figuring it out. He's not going to hit 340. He's not going to be the Luis Ariz who goes out there and only hits singles and hits 350 and doesn't really do anything else. But he's just kind of a guy that you throw at the end of your lineup because, one, he brings some juice, and two, he can just about track any fly ball in the outfield.
Yeah.
I swear that guy, if you put him dead in center field and you hit a ball to the left field foul pole, I think he could get there. It's just freaking absurd what he does out in the outfield. I think the Phillies have a bit of a gem here. I don't think he's some fantastically great, unbelievable baseball player, right? But for a team that is built off of a top-heavy lineup and trying to find the depth peaches and the platoons that really work the best. Johan Rojas is kind of a perfect guy to be in this 9-hole. Like I already said, the dude steals bases. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. I believe he has the 4th fastest sprint speed in all of baseball. He tracks every ball in the outfield, and he's been hitting a ton of singles recently. The dude just really has been putting the ball on the bat, which is really all they asked of him. If Johan Rojas wanted to win a job this year, all he needed to do was put a ball on the bat. If he's now, since the All-Star break, in 25 games, he has 18 hits, 3 doubles, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 4 stolen bases. So once again, not necessarily the flashiest player, and I don't even really think flashy is a good word for that, because I think he is pretty flashy.
Got swagger.
But not the guy that you're going to look on paper at the stats and be like, this dude's an animal. But it feels like every time that he goes out there in the outfield, it just seems like the Phillies have a good chance to win.
100%. I mean, these deficiencies have weakened slightly. We're not talking about Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos as your corner outfields, and when there was a period of time where that was the case. But you still could certainly use a plus defensive center fielder, and Johan Rojas is exactly that. When you think about where this Phillies team goes south, I basically can assign this guy none of the blame, that you know what you're getting from him from a 9-hole hitter, and he's not a guy that you probably want on an every night basis, that there will be opportunities when you do want to upgrade that bat. But he's just kind of this great connective piece to have and use. And I think I'm going to start my new campaign that batting average still matters, Luke Arcaini. I get the advanced stats. I get all the other ways you want to slice and dice it. If I know how many times this guy is getting a hit and getting up there, sign me up for that still meaning something. So I'll take him hitting over 300 since the All-Star break, even if that is little infield hits or him beating out ground balls that are barely getting to fielders there. I'll take it all. And to be honest, he's done more than that he has still hit some out to the outfielders, a couple gappers, a couple doubles, as you mentioned there. So I love it. I love the speed that he brings in the base path. It feels like there's kind of like this jumpiness that he puts in pitchers on the mounds that I don't see from anyone else on this Phillies roster, that they're petrified this guy's going to take off and steal a base, because he absolutely will. So I love it there. I did want to swing it back to you with a question about Brandon Marsh, though. That seems to be kind of the battle or the platoon that things are shaking down from. Marsh has had his struggles, the strikeouts being at the top of the list there, but quietly has been hitting better. He has 6 of his last 14 in his last 4 games with 2 doubles, a home run, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. He also had that sacrifice fly, which essentially was the game-winning one in a recent game. What is kind of your feeling for how things shape out between these two, and what's your level of optimism for Marsh?
Yeah, I've been very critical of Marsh this year. I think as a guy who doesn't go out and mash home runs, I say that as he had a really crucial home run in tonight's game. Obviously, we know Brandon Marsh is not some crazy big home run hitter. That's just not who he is. He's more of a contact slap hits guy. My issue with Marsh this year has really been just the strikeouts. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
I believe he's now up to 127 strikeouts in 335 at bats. So that is over 33%. I believe it's around 37% of the time. He's striking out at a league leading clip, just about. So my issue there has been I can accept a guy who hits 50 home runs in a season striking out that much, but I can't accept a guy who's hitting 245 with a slugging percentage around 410 to be doing that. But like you said, I think he's found something a little bit the last few weeks. Last 7 games, like you said, the last 20 at bats, 4 runs, 6 hits, 1 homer, 3 RBIs, with a 300 average and 925 OPS. I think Marsh is finding something here. I think it's big. They have to continue to even out the bat path for Marsh. He can't be uppercutting, trying to swing home runs. He's just not that type of guy. And listen, he's a pretty strong dude. So if he gets a hold of one on a line drive, it has a chance. But there's just no reason for him to be swinging for the fences. But I do think the Phillies are sort of in a better place, at least in the outfield, as they were to start this season. I think the obvious addition of Austin Hayes, once again, not a guy who's going to go hit 30 home runs with a batting average of 330. But basically that sort of platoon guy, and now you have 3 options of who's going to be out there every night. Will it be a Hayes Rojas sort of thing? Will it be a Marsh Rojas sort of thing? And even a Weston Wilson thing, who right now is currently on the paternity list. But we know Weston Wilson's made a pretty big impact the games that he's been up here. We obviously know a last week with the huge cycle, but he's looked very confident at the plate.
He's about to be adding dad strength on top.
Yeah, dad strength will always help. I already set an alarm on my phone for a Weston Wilson home run bet in his first game back. It's just I think they have options, which I think coming into the season they didn't have a ton. I think they were high on Marsh, obviously, after last season, but I think they knew that Marsh isn't some huge big name hitter. Rojas, they obviously know, is not that guy. At the time, Christian Pache, once again, not that guy. Whit Merrifield, a guy who they brought really to play infield, but ended up playing some outfield. As we know, not the guy who currently has a 5-hit night for the Atlanta Braves tonight. But I think the Phillies have options now. I think they have multiple platoon options. They have multiple guys that can hit lefties, and they have multiple guys that can hit righties.
Yeah, and you can't ask for much more than that. I do think the emergence of Weston Wilson is more than just a footnote. That I think this is a guy that should stick around for this Phillies team.
Yeah.
And I
listen. I don't think he's going anywhere. Once he's ready, I think he'll be right back on the roster.
Yeah, and the fact that he can play both infield and outfield is a huge deal. That you can move him around. He's basically what they hope Whit Merrifield could become, and it does feel like there's some legit juice to Wilson. So do love this. Do you think for our final note here, you just continue to roll out Johan Rojas as basically an everyday center fielder, let him get the at bats, or how do you balance that with Brandon Marsh needing to kind of fight through things as well?
Yeah, I think right now you kind of hope you continue to ride the hot Rojas bat. I think Rojas should be out there most days in center, at least for the time being. I think when it's a lefty, I think you really get Hayes out there, and if it's a righty, you get Marsh out there. But as far as the thing with Rojas, he's actually last year he was way better against lefties than righties. This year's kind of been the opposite. This year against left-handed pitching, he's hitting just 205 compared to righties 261. The OPS is almost 200 points higher against righties. So I think you just really this outfield, and it's going to be very obvious going into the postseason. This is going to be a who's hot and who's not sort of outfield. If Hayes is crushing the ball, he's going to be out there every night. If Marsh is crushing the ball, he's going to be out there every night. It's really just going to be a who's hot and who's not sort of outfield, I think, over the next 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will be staying on top of that right here on Phillies Digest. Shout out to Johan Rojas for showing us a little something, really, having some juice in this outfield, and I think hitting well above what I think anybody would have guessed at this point. But as Luke mentioned, we'll be with you guys from start to finish for the remainder of the season. About 30 games left until that playoff push. So make sure you are smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Just 13.1% of you guys subscribed to the channel thus far. So let's get those numbers jumping. And I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think should be the everyday center fielder when push comes to shove and decisions need to be made? Drop in the comments. Drop a like on this video. Smash that subscribe button. And we'll be talking with you next time. Peace.